Good morning, and welcome to the monthly memorial service, the Shotsuki service for the month of October. We'll begin our service with Tsuki chanting of Sanbutsuge. Namon dubs, 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 namon dubs. Gi giいじむごくにょぜえみょむしゃにちがつまにしゅこえんにょかいしつおんべゆにゃくじゅもくにょらいよげん人小学大音こぬじぽ開門精進三昧知恵意徳無量修正慶宇神大前年海愚人人の空語外大無明欲ぬ世尊読む人の死死人徳無量空君古来知恵人妙光明異尊真の大善願が差別在所法未不下脱不正上位解任精進行税三昧知恵特別不行志願一切空軍一切大安夜心無物百千億万無量大小悪用一切死と小物不尿具の検証不客非尿五者小物世界部不影無種説の光明師匠平税精進偉人難女量がさま国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国女内音任務闘争ガト愛民道達非愛所心熱症状意図学国経絡安穏好物神妙是が心象発願能意力小生尊知恵無下上量子孫知が信用食毒中学業精進人流系ナマダメナダメナマダメナマダメナマダメナマダメがんにしくどか病の生災道大心往生 Gong. Namandos, 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 namandos. We'll now read the names for the month of October. Yoshie Iwasaki. Jane Kosakura. Sadao Nagao. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Mandos, namandos, namandos. See, I apologize if there seems to be some kind of connection error or something. It keeps notifying me that some kind of poor connection. I mean, the last time that happened, it was because they were doing work on the lines or something. So perhaps they're improving the lines again. So I apologize for any interruptions that we have. Today, I'd like to open with a passage from the Kyogyo Shinsho, written by Shinran Shonin. So, if you could please join me in Gassho. Concerning compassion, there are three kinds of objects. First, sentient beings as objects. This is small compassion. Second, things as object. This is medium compassion. Third, nothing as object. This is great compassion. Great compassion is none other than the supramundane good. The pure land of happiness arises from this great compassion. Therefore, this great compassion is said to be the root of the Pure Land. Hence the phrase, born from the supramundane roots of good. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandos, namandos, namandos. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit because it's kind of counterintuitive, at least the first time you hear it, how the sentient beings as object of compassion is small, and then things are medium, and then nothing is great. And so it seems like it'd be the opposite, right? That like the most important thing to be compassionate to would be sentient beings, but it's the opposite. And for myself, my appreciation of this passage is that the compassion to sentient beings is small compassion because it is the easiest. So it's very easy to be compassionate to sentient beings because sentient beings can be compassionate back to you. So if you're compassionate or kind to a person, and because they're compassionate to you, that's very easy to do, right? If someone's really nice, those are like the best kind of people, the people who are always nice, and so it's really easy to be nice to them. It's always difficult being nice to people who are difficult. It's hard to be nice to them. So secondly, things as object. So to have compassion for things is medium compassion. Now, I think it's important to differentiate this kind of compassion with perhaps possession or obsession. When someone obsesses over something, or when they really want something, they crave something, I don't think, in my personal opinion, that's the same as compassion. And the same thing with like people. If you want somebody or you want someone to be a certain way, that's not the same way as compassion. Compassion is caring for them as they are. The same thing with things is to be compassionate to them as they are, not to want to be in possession of it, not to want it to be a certain way. So, for instance, let's see, like shoes. I don't know. I appreciate shoes and sneakers, and so when we have maybe kind of some old beat up shoes and we want new ones, and we really wish that our shoes that we had right now were different, that they were fancier, they were a lot more stylish or something, that would not be compassion. That would be this kind of craving or greed. But to have compassion for these shoes that we have, these beat up old shoes, the ones that have carried us from point A to point B so many times, and they protect our feet from rocks and nails and stuff. To have that kind of compassion is the medium compassion, because although we use these things, even though these things help us, it can be very difficult to have compassion for them because we take them for granted. It's very easy to take them for granted because they don't speak up, they don't say anything. Like a person, if you were to talk to a person and they felt like they were maybe being neglected, they would say something. Or they would say something just to make you feel good, and then that would be helpful enough in remembering to show compassion for them. So for things, there's that medium compassion. And then finally, great compassion. Great compassion has nothing as object. So this isn't necessarily that you have compassion for nothing or no one, but rather that there is no object anymore. There isn't something that you're directing your compassion to. If there is an object, then that means that there is a subject. There is that dichotomy, that duality of two things that exist, right? The subject, the thing that is giving compassion, and then the object, the thing that is receiving the compassion. But when you can break down that barrier and there is no longer a subject and an object, then there is no object, right? There's no object anymore, also meaning that there's no subject anymore. And so that is great compassion. True compassion, that is the greatest level of compassion, would be breaking down that barrier between object and subject and just having perhaps a more dramatic way of saying it is that you embody compassion, you become compassion, and compassion becomes you. So this idea that no longer are you limited by a physical body, you're no longer limited by the way that you think or your mind, you're no longer limited by the reality created by your existence. That compassion then extends beyond all that. So this, I think, is starting to get a little bit abstract, but I think another way of understanding it is that when you stop giving compassion based on something is when it becomes true compassion. When you're compassionate with these kind of caveats, these notions, the cliche would be if you are compassionate based on conditions. So this idea of unconditional love, right? Unconditional compassion means that no matter what it is, if it's sentient, if it's not sentient, if it's something that you want, if it's something that someone you don't like, all of these things, if you can break through all of those barriers, then that is real, true, and great compassion. This no conditions compassion, this unlimited compassion, which is another way of understanding our object of reverence, Amida Buddha, as infinite wisdom and compassion. So this idea of great compassion, being compassionate for nothing, is another way to being compassionate for everything. But of course, within Buddhism, it can't be so simple. We have to make it a little bit difficult to kind of, push your head into the wall a little bit to break through your common way of understanding things. And so instead of simply saying be compassionate for everything and then, trying to individually be compassionate for every single thing in your life, realizing that it's not everything that you have to be compassionate for, it's nothing you have to be compassionate for, and thus it all becomes enveloped in that. So again, kind of this backwards thinking, paradoxical thinking to help us break through the normal way we understand the world. And finally, I'd like to point to the fact that if we break down that object and subject barrier, we are also included in that compassion. So it's important for us to be compassionate to ourselves. So I hope for this month of October, we keep that kind of mentality in our hearts to try to break down the barriers of compassion that we might have for certain people or things, trying to open up our hearts to the great compassion, to the compassion that's true and real, that can all things, that is the same as the light of Amida touching all things. With that spirit of October, we'll continue to hopefully build towards a better life. So if you could all please join me in Gasho, and then we'll close with the letter on white ashes. So. In silently contemplating the transient nature of human existence, nothing is more fragile and fleeting in this world than the life of man. Thus we have not heard of human life lasting for 1,000. Life passes swiftly, and few among men can maintain their form for even 100 years. Whether I go before others or others go before me, whether it be today or tomorrow, who is to know? Those who depart before us are as countless as the drops of dew. Though in the morning we may have radiant health, in the evening we may return to white ashes. When the winds of impermanence blow, our eyes are closed forever, and when the last breath leaves us, our face loses its color. The loved ones may gather and lament, everything is to no avail. The body is then sent into an open field and vanishes from this world with the smoke of cremation, leaving only the white ashes. Nothing is more real than this truth of life. The fragile nature of human existence underlies both the young and the old. Therefore we must, one and all, turn to the teachings of the Buddha Dharma and awaken to the essence of life. By so understanding the meaning of death, we come to appreciate the meaning of this life, which is to be treasured because it is unrepeatable. By virtue of true compassion, let us realize the unexcelled value of this existence, and let us live together with gratitude in our hearts. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namon Dubs, Namon Dubs, Namon Dubs. Thank you again, everybody for watching. I'm really sorry that we had some kind of connection issues. I don't know, maybe I'll start pre-recording these so that we don't have that kind of stuff anymore. But please look to the Google form to put in the name of your loved one if you would like to have their name read for the month of, what's today, October? So November, for next year. Our Shotsuki services are the first Saturday of each month at 11 a.m. So we will see you all next month at the beginning of November. Okay, until then, stay safe and please take care. Bye.